Циммерман Томас.
Yeah,
Yes?
that's me. Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, да.
So,
Анкара, Турция. Оценка и падение стоимости. Спектрографический анализ средневековых металлических артефактов. Кинет-Хёюка, Турция. Искендерун. Да?
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I hope you can hear me clearly. My voice is coming over clearly. Can anyone confirm? Yes, great, perfect. Okay, so you can hear me, that's fine. First of all, yeah, good afternoon, and I want to thank very cordially Alessandra and the organizers for having invited me to this conference. I would have loved to be with you there in person. As you probably know, we had to experience this natural catastrophe the 6th of February, which had an enormously disruptive effect, not only on the east of Turkey, which was largely devastated, but Turkey as a whole. So the universities were closed, then reopened, then it was switched to online. Now we are back face to face. It is a very disruptive semester, and we're trying to pick up the pieces and somehow graduate our students. So that's the major reason why I'm not with you here in person. I will be very, very happy to meet all of you at the nearest possible date. And thank you very much for having me there for your conference. For the coming 15-20 minutes, I have no architecture to present you and no great paintings or reliefs or frescoes, but basically scrap metal to debate. And it's a little bit also on, yeah, making a case and eventually also, yeah, bringing back a much debated and partially despised method back on the scene. It's portable XRF analysis, which, as we will see in the coming slides, is a very much debated, if not controversial, approach to metalwork. But let me just start with honoring one of the forefathers here of archaeometrical analysis, Martin Heinrich Klappwood, who blessed us here with one of the earliest studies to reconcile historical questions with scientific, or in that case, methodology coming from chemistry, or more precisely from alchemy. So this idea or concept of documology is actually something that comes from alchemic roots of chemistry, and it's about to evaluate the precious amount of metals, the amount of precious elements in non-precious substances. And he managed that beautifully, however, very destructively. I just realized that the animations are not working in this presentation, so sorry for that. But I will walk you through here without any bigger issues, I hope. Now, what was actually done here? He tried in his study, which was published here at the late 18th, early 19th century, to trace the waning and waxing of ancient economies, especially Greek and Roman economies, testing the amount of precious metals in coins, and also tracing periods of devaluation here. So that was one of the first real archaeometrical studies and archaeometrical approaches, however, horribly destructive. He had to dissolve the coins in saltpeter acid and then weight the different contents here and powder, and weight them and evaluate the values. And it's still fascinating to see that the results that he obtained in this study coincide beautifully with a very much non-destructive spectrographic approach that was here carried out by Riedere in 1974 and published here in a volume by Bartel. and you see how beautifully the values coincide. So there are several centuries in between, but it's still fascinating to see how precise and correct Klaproth was with his evaluation of coinage and the evaluation of precious and non-precious elements in coinage. We will come back to this particular issue in a few minutes. Now, talking about portable XRF, so I believe that many of you are scientists, or chemists, or physicists working in the field of archaeology. I'm an archaeologist scavenging in the field of natural sciences, so you have probably a much more in-depth knowledge about the many pitfalls of this. Well, as you all know, this became increasingly popular in the past decades, especially. It's very practical and easy to use at first sight, but without the appropriate training and the appropriate knowledge of the many issues that are related to this handheld portable X-ray fluorescence devices, which actually, just as a footnote, very much resemble these phasers from the old Star Trek movies, just to mention that in passing. However, as you are all aware of, there's lots of critical comments made on that, and here especially Mark Pierce talking even about the curse of portable XRF and the negative consequences of the popularity here. I try to make a case for the point that it is still valuable and reasonable to use such devices to get an idea of different alloying traditions in a specific place and a specific site over a longer period of time. And one thing that probably we can all agree on as a take-home message is that one has to be careful and we must be cautious here in using such devices and knowing about this many pitfalls. Now, I will take you here for the coming minutes to Kinet-Hők, which is a harbor site excavated for 20 years in the southeast of modern Turkey at the Bay of İskenderun, which is now a region which suffered terribly from the earthquake catastrophe. So most of the infrastructure here in this region is basically gone or very badly damaged. There is no active excavation going on here anymore, but I heard that at least parts of the adjunct infrastructure here is intact. But most of the villages and also bigger cities here in the vicinity are destroyed. Well, this place was excavated by an American team, by my now retired colleagues, Marie Henriette Gates and Charles Gates. And it's one of these typical multi-period sites that we have in the ancient Near East, starting here from, I have to continue here, that's the chronological and stratigraphic breakdown of this site. So one of these typical Höyüks, so settlement mounds that are typical here for Anatolia, Western Asia, and Mesopotamia alike. We also have them to a certain extent beyond the Bosporus, as we all know, in the Balkans and Southeast Europe, but it's especially typical here for communities to settle over a long period of time because of strategic reasons, because of economic reasons, because of the proximity to the seashore. So here the occupation starts already here before the early Bronze Age, and then we have well preserved features, architectural and archaeological remains since the 3rd millennium, and this goes all the way here into the end of the 14th century here. And then there's a little village at the nearby site which is used for liquid propane gas storage, the so-called Tüpraş field, named after the company, with a small medieval village nearby. Now, traditionally, archaeologists are, of course, me included, very keen on getting a good idea about metal production and metal consumption in the pre and early historic periods here. The early Bronze Age, the Middle Bronze Age, and eventually also the late Bronze Age. So with the material we had at hand and that we could analyze with handheld X-ray fluorescence devices, we got then a pretty neat idea about changing in alloying traditions over a longer period of time. We'll discuss this particular slide again at the end. This is just for you as an overview about the materials we could test here with such handheld devices. Now, the point is, of course, the comparability and the trustworthiness of such handheld devices. So we had two analysis runs, once going back even to 2014, and there were two different handheld devices here, the X and the Olympus device. And you see that the values obtained here with this machinery are pretty well comparable. There is, of course, some deviations here, but not on a grand scale. And since we are dealing with bulk analysis here, so not this in-depth analysis of pigments, where you need eventually also values that go to the realm of parts per million, they still provide a pretty good overview of different alloying traditions here at this particular place. Now, as I said already, normally archaeologists are pretty keen on revealing alloying and metalworking traditions in the earlier periods, like the early and middle, and of course also the late Bronze Age. For the late Bronze Age, as a brief footnote before I finally talk about medieval metalwork at the site, we are a bit hampered by the fact that the late Bronze Age, which means the second millennium BC in Anatolia, is of course the time of Hittite rule in the Old Kingdom, and then the so-called imperial phase. And the amount of metalwork that is available from this period is still limited, for the simple reason that there are no burials. So most of the material comes from domestic context or is retrieved by museums if they're lucky, and confiscated by the authorities here in the course of antique smuggling. But there is no burial complexes or whatever, because they don't exist in the Hittite period. That's a very different topic I will not talk about, but one gets some exciting results here. There's partly published, especially the phenomenon of cupronickel that we have here. And this is some specific phenomenon limited to the late imperial period in the Hittite world. So this is obviously something that has to do with centralized authority and centralized distribution of resources here. We have it here lightening up at the center at Hattusha, but we also have it at this harbor site at Kinet-Hők, which obviously was then also involved in this imperial distribution of very specific metal resources, in that case nickel-rich copper resources. However, our major concern here is something that normally is a bit of a wallflower issue in metal studies and metallurgy, which is just testing medieval metalwork with such a very basic application like bulk analysis and XRF analysis here. But as I said, I want to make a case and defend a little bit this approach, especially in the context of multi-period sites, and to see what's basically going on here after the Iron Age, and especially the Hellenistic impact or Hellenistic occupation of this place. So when we talk about archaeometrical analysis conducted here on medieval material, there's one very recent study published by Berlot and Jona Waxman here from Lyon, which is focusing on pottery, on this glazed Port Saint-Simeon where I cannot really talk about. This is very much the realm of ceramics expert, but there are now these studies being published on the site, and there's also the first final publication on the early Bronze Age coming out this year, one hopes. When it comes to medieval remains of Kinet-Hők, this is probably something that you expect here. It's not very picturesque, so to say. This is scrap metal. Of course, and coins, but here also belt buckles and fragments of little bowls and the like, buttons. So things that are lost and eventually retrieved from domestic levels here at this site. Now, when one looks at the data sets here, and of course, this is something you're all perfectly familiar with, this endless rows of measured and rectified data. When we focus on the coins, so in reminiscence of Martin Heinrich Klapproth, we see that especially during this so-called Crusader area, we have this very distinct devaluation of valuable materials here, where you can see that quite respectable amounts of copper and also lead is added to the coinage. So in a more detailed study, you might then also reveal the waning and waxing of the economy and periods of crisis and warfare and the like, which goes in sync with devaluation of coinage. If one compares here, and this is a general chart of metals here from medieval context, it's surprising to see that we have still lots of copper and unalloyed in inverted commas, and there's a small but fair amount of brass, which is also not a big surprise, but all these ternary alloys and the like show that, of course, this recycling issue was still is still more prominent than it ever was when it comes to medieval metallurgy. I just want to remind ourselves of this famous hoard from Bologna, here from Iron Age context. It's a scrap metal hoard from Italy, which contained also chalcolithic daggers that were collected or retrieved from whatever dubious source, probably through grave robbery, which is certainly not a modern phenomenon, as we all know. So the recycling issues is very much present here. And then for this bulk analysis issues, I think it still has some very distinct value if one reviews alloying traditions in a more broader chronological context, and sees what's happening here with the metalwork retrieved from one specific site, from one specific place, which is very clearly stratified, which is very well stratified. You can see here the changes through time with a very stable amount of copper, of unalloyed copper still present, and with a strong signal here in the assemblages, which goes down here quite considerably during the Iron Age, where bronze is the major material to deal with. And then in the Hellenistic period, the rise of leaded bronze and lots of ternary alloys that we have in the medieval period then. But specific studies then eventually have also their value in focusing on Crusader coinage and coinage we have from this site and also from the neighboring Tüpraş field, to just get an idea about also economic drawbacks and the grand economic history as reflected in this specific place, very much also in the tradition of what Klapproth very successfully attempted in the late 18th and early 19th century already. So I hope that was not too disappointing for you to hear something that is not related to beautiful architecture and even more beautiful paintings here. There's lots of people I have to thank here for this study. As I said, it's in the progress and process of being published in a series of monographs. There's also lots of preliminary reports already available for you. And I want to thank you very much for your attention and your patience. And as I said, I very much hope to see you in person in the very, very close future. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you for interesting report. And have you any question? Oh, please.
Erstens einmal danke, Thomas, das war super, dass du mitgemacht hast, trotz Erdbeben und alles. Danke vielmals. I stop immediately, speak in German. And just a comment about the pistols, about the handheld XRF, which I'm also using sometimes. As my grandmother used to say, the problem lies with who is holding the handle.
Yes.
So it is a question of experience, of knowing about the materials you're studying, and that's it. It is a very useful tool for people who know how to use it. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for inviting me again. Great.
Also, question, please.
It's working. Can you hear me? This is Bela.
Oh, Bela.
Hello, Thomas.
Oh,
Okay, just a short comment. I think the main important is not the instrument, just the calibration.
Yeah.
The calibration. It's an easy thing. The portable XRF is very useful, but the main important thing is which calibration can you use, and when and where. After, of course, the database, the reworking the database. And congratulations for your speaking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Еще вопросы? Also question? No? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you.
Report.
Wish you a successful
Bye-bye.
conference. Thank you.